All right. With that, I will like to introduce Kevin Shiflett. Thank you, Kevin, for joining us tonight. Kevin is a candidate for Rockingham County Sheriff, and we're so happy to have you join us.
Thank you. Gotta ask before I start, is that Montgomery County, Maryland, or Virginia?
Montgomery County, Maryland.
Hey, me too.
Really?
Yeah, grew up there, Rockville.
Rockville. I grew up in Four Corners, and
Okay.
you were somewhere else.
No, Mount Rainier, but I don't remember clearly because I was young.
You were.
When we were. I was younger.
Small world.
Yeah.
I also gotta say, that was enlightening to me. I had no idea. Seriously, I mean, you know, always give food and whatnot during the drives, but I had no idea how I don't want to say desperate, but serious the situation is. Wow. So thanks for sharing that. And just to let you know, just coincidentally, we videotaped that. So if you want to have that and push that out, by all means, put it on your website.
Oh, okay.
Because I think every American should have to see that presentation.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Good evening. My name is Kevin Shiflett, and I'm candidate for sheriff of Rockingham County in the city of Harrisonburg. And thank you so much for having me. This is great. This is exactly what I've been pushing for from day one. I'd like to have the other candidates here so we could actually have a debate. And you guys already know how that happened. Sometimes people don't want to show up, but a little bit about myself. I am a 9-year veteran at the sheriff's office. I don't work there anymore, but I did work there for 9 years as a patrol deputy, a SWAT team officer, a field training officer, training other deputies, and as a major crimes criminal investigator. So I know exactly how the place works. I also have 12 years experience in the United States Army with 2 tours overseas, deployed under both presidents, and a tour at Katrina on day 3 of Katrina. So unlike the movies, the military does a lot more than just go to war. We help people. I've also been deployed numerous times here in the state for natural disasters and whatnot. I'm a captain in the military now. I command 214 soldiers in my company. I'm the company commander there. I have a budget. I prepared a budget of $15.3 million with that much fiscal responsibility. My last tour overseas, I had 800 troops that I was in charge of all their tactical operations, going out in and out of the door. So I've got a lot of experience with leadership of large organizations. People, when I speak with people, they usually ask me two basic questions. And the first one is, why did you get involved? And the main reason is, when I got back from active duty back in March of this year, I started watching the campaigns of the other candidates, and I noticed they weren't saying much about some of the problems you guys now know about. You know, you've read in the paper some things that certain cops were doing, and that if anybody in this room had done it, you'd all be in jail for it. But certain people don't go to jail, and it's not fair. I don't know how else to say it. It's just not fair. We don't have any kings in this country anymore. We got rid of the king a long time ago. And then to not even get in trouble for it, but then to have a continued cover up of that type of stuff, it's just wrong. And when I recognized that other people weren't ever going to say anything about it, and it was going to be hidden from you, the boss, I really believe you guys are the boss, I realized no one's ever going to solve that problem if we don't identify it. So that is one of the main reasons I got involved. I know that, like I said, having worked there, I know exactly what's wrong with the system. And I know, from being in the military, I know what right looks like. I know how you do the right thing, even if no one is looking. So, the other question people ask me is, what's your primary focus? What is the main thing you're going to do in office? And I do want to get to all the other questions that are extremely important also. What we're going to do about drugs and gangs and jail overcrowding and shortage of deputies and jailer retention, because we have a bad retention problem right now. But all of those issues actually come back to the one main thing that I'm going to do with the sheriff's office, is I'm going to fix this broken system. Right now, this system is set up to do nothing else. Well, correction. The primary focus of the system of the sheriff's office is to get the sheriff and his upper pyramid reelected. Make no mistake about it. The primary focus is not criminal investigations, it's not deterring crime, it is to get the sheriff reelected. That is what deputies have to focus on every 4 years. For an entire year, they focus on that. And they're out there solving cases and stuff and whatnot, but that's what the office turns into. And I lived through 3 elections working there, so I know exactly what happens. Human beings made this system, another human being can fix this system, all right? And people don't realize that. They think, oh, well, this is how it's always been, we can't fix it. It can be fixed. A lot of other progressive counties have already fixed it. Fairfax County got rid of their sheriff a long time ago. Arlington got rid of the sheriff. Prince William got rid of the sheriff. Albemarle County got rid of the sheriff. It's a little bit harder to do it nowadays because the law was modified that if you want to get rid of the corruption of your sheriff's office, you have to pay for your own police department from now on. That makes it financially difficult to do that. But that law can be corrected, all right, by a sheriff who's willing to go to the public safety committees of the General Assembly and say, hey, I'm a sheriff and I'm telling you, you need to take away some of this power that I have because it's way too much power and there's nobody to check me. I mean, think about it right now. The sheriff who, after, in the face of overwhelming evidence, finally admits to a mistake, quote unquote, driving a police cruiser drunk down the road, covering it up, nothing has occurred. There's no punishment, there's no loss of pay, there's nothing. Just stay in office, no problem. There's no one to fix that problem. You can get a sheriff out, but it's worse than an act of Congress. So one of the things I want to do is work with the system, work with the legislators to study the problem, study what we have now, and analyze some solutions that I've already got on the table now. One of which is possible term limits for sheriffs. I don't know why we don't allow our president to run more than 2 terms. Our governor can only run 1 term, but a sheriff can run forever. If you know anything about a sheriff's office, once he's in, or he or she are in. They are not coming out. I mean, you think about Page County. Pressgraves was under indictment and they re-elected him. Or, I mean, he was right on the verge of indictment, like one or the other, but everybody knew he was going down, and they re-elected him. I guarantee you today, if he could be re-elected, I mean, if he could be eligible to run again, he would win again. That's what you get with the good old One Network, you know? So that's one thing, term limits. Or we would go to a system like the U.S. Marshal Service has, and my understanding is the state of Florida has. The deputies are civil servants in those 2 systems. They are not at-will employees who can be fired at the whim of the sheriff, the political whim of the sheriff. So they're civil servants, and they're actually restricted from being involved in the election process. And I know we had one attendee at the debate the other night, and you heard some of the some of the revelations. But it was admitted that deputies on duty are out campaigning in fundraisers for in uniform, using your vehicles, your gas, your uniforms, you know, your insurance if they were to get hurt. They're out campaigning for one of my opponents. And it's not all of the deputies, it's just that certain top tier that I'm talking about, and people who get promises made that if I get elected, I'm going to hook you up with this job. And if you get this job, you're going to get more money. Okay, so that type of stuff's got to stop. And this is 2011, and we're still talking about the corruption that you would have seen in 1911. You know? So that's another option. And then the other option is do what Fairfax, Prince William, and Albemarle have already done. Get rid of the sheriff's law enforcement abilities, and hire a police chief. Because right now, when you think about it, this job, the sheriff's office job, is way overpaid at $127,000 a year, plus $12,000 in fringe benefits, plus they get out of jail free card apparently, and or I never even go to jail card actually. And you only have 3 people to choose from. When you think about that, we have a terrible economy, and only 3 people want this job that pays 6 figures. There's something wrong with that. I think I'm the best candidate out of the 3 you got when you compare the leadership experience and the willingness to tell the truth and the solutions to our local problems of drugs and gangs and whatnot. But I know I'm not the best applicant we could have had. If we had done this like everybody else does, we put out an ad saying, hey, who wants this job? We should have a stack of papers that thick sitting on this board of supervisors' desk right now for them to be reviewing and saying, look at all these great people we have. You know? But nobody wants to deal with this process because this process is it's tough. It's tough, especially if you're doing it like I'm doing it. I'm not asking anybody for money. I have not and will not ask anybody for money for fundraising. And I'm not aligning myself with any political group. The main reasons are, when I became a cop, I took an oath. I put my hand up, just like all cops do, and I swore to God I would never allow, amongst other things, money and politics to interfere in my job. And I ask you, what are the other candidates doing? That's all they're doing. Big money, big politics. $130,000. How much food did that involve? $130,000 have been raised, have been solicited to buy. Excuse me 1 second. To buy this. This is what $130,000 buys you. Tons of them. And by the way, what does that convey? They were side by side. What is this conveying? I mean, there's like a competition going on here. I'm in front. Well, now I'm taller. You know, it's ridiculous. And you know where all these are going, don't you? On November 9th, they're all going to the dump. No food involved. No kids going to college. No, no curing cancer. $130,000 is being wasted for yard signs to try to get bandwagon votes. Well, I've seen more Hutchison signs. Or I've seen more Hess signs. So I'll vote for that guy. It's just a waste. And I don't know, maybe it's the Army officer in me, because one of the things we do in the Army is we always constantly watch out for fraud, waste, and abuse. And I see that, and I'm just like, what a waste. Now, I understand for politics, and I think it's a necessary evil for true politics, but we've got an alternative in law enforcement. We don't need a politician in law enforcement. We need a chief of police, or we need at least to take the politics out of law enforcement. So I say that's my #1 priority, because when you consider you got deputies out there focusing right now, and it's not their fault, it's just that when they're only making $27,000 a year, and they got a family of 4, they're having to worry about their own. And when you get the message real quick at a sheriff's office, you play ball or you go home. And you kind of, the deputies have to start aligning themselves with certain candidates, so they can hopefully get the next promotion, or to avoid being fired. It's never that direct, but there's always little hidden agendas that happen in the sheriff's office. And again, it's not just our sheriff's office, it's all the sheriff's offices that are left in Virginia. Page County, we all know about that now. Rockingham, Henry County, he and 19 of his deputies were selling meth out in the streets. Franklin County, you guys have heard about him recently. Another county, Isle of Wight, the sheriff should be indicted pretty soon. Those are just the ones that actually got the evidence on. So this is a system that is antiquated. You know, we have better options, and once we solve that problem, we'll have deputies back out there focusing on their actual job. When they started the sheriff's office, they thought they were going to be solving crimes, and that's it. And they do. And then we have great deputies. 90% of them are great. We go to battle with them any day. But it's sad that once you get there, you realize, oh, they didn't teach this to me in the academy. It's all about loyalty to one person. It's kind of like a dictatorship. It's not a job anymore. So once we fix this system, deputies will focus on their jobs. We'll be able to hit gangs hard. We'll be able to tackle the drug problem. We'll be able to the shortage of road deputies that we have right now, we won't have as much, because instead of spending their time campaigning and jockeying for the next position, they'll be focused on crimes. So a lot of the problems that we have will be taken care of once we fix the overall system. Again, I do have, on my website, there's a link to a questionnaire that TV3 had us all fill out. And they asked 5 questions that deal with shortage of deputies, jail overcrowding, and whatnot. And that link will take you to all 3, on my website, it'll take you to all 3 candidates' answers. And I think once you see the differences on how I answer it, specifics, you'll see that it versus other people who are just very generic type statements. You know, we're going to be for the people, we're going to be proactive. Who isn't for people? I mean, when we got aliens running around here, we're going to be for the aliens, you know? So that doesn't mean anything. That's a politician's statement. And I'm trying to say, look, let's tackle this head on specifically. How are we going to address these issues? And I'm not sure how much time we have, but I would definitely love to take questions and talk about any of these particular issues, about the big overall system, what the system is, or how, you know, the alternatives we could go to, how the system is now, or the particulars: jail overcrowding, jail retention, patrol shortage, drugs, gangs, and what my plan is to solve those problems. So we're gonna open it up. Yes.
Can the system of electing the sheriff be changed locally, or does that go to General Assembly?
It can be. You can, the Board of Super, I'm sorry, you can put forth a public referendum to get rid of the sheriff's office's law enforcement abilities. The sheriff will still be in charge of the jail, but to get rid of his law enforcement abilities, and let's face it, that's where the real power is, because you have a lot of power as a cop. But you know how it is, trying to educate 100,000 people on the topic is, and especially when you tell them, oh, this is coming with a tax raise, it ain't gonna happen. To not speak, proper grammar there, it's not happening. But so yes, it can happen like that right now, but it's just not going to.
A referendum.
A referendum, technically speaking. But again, we all know that trying to educate that many people all at once on a referendum is not easy. And then also, because a lot of citizens don't know, I would surmise that most of you didn't know how some of the things I just told you about. The only people who are in a position to educate the public about it is who? The sheriff. So he's not going to get rid of himself, And yeah, exactly. So what a great system. And the way the Virginia Sheriff's Association, I feel, needs to do more to stop worrying about themselves so much and start worrying about the public and worrying about deputies. It's a well-entrenched good old boy system. But I have no, I had some people ask me, like, aren't you telling the public a lot of detailed information here? Are you scared for yourself? And I'm like, if Al-Qaeda couldn't kill me in Iraq, neither can a good old boy network. so no, I'm not scared.
Are you saying then that in this that you were just talking about, the sheriff would be in charge of the jail only, and there would be a chief of police who would then be in charge of crime? That's
correct. That's exactly how it happens in Fairfax County, in Albemarle, and Arlington, and those counties.
How did the referendum get started in those areas?
Well, see, my understanding is, and it's obviously I've been a little busy with this campaign, but my understanding is, and again, I know I'm taking this for myself, so don't quote me exactly on this, but from what I know of talking to some of my mentors in law enforcement who were around working in the 70s and into the 80s, is that back then the Board of Supervisors could do it. And you can educate 5 people pretty easily in this presentation. And again, if I'm wrong, don't hold it to me, but this is from what I've been told from my mentors, and tracking down the exact history of it, I haven't had time to do yet, but then lobbying occurred at General Assembly where the referendum option came up, and hey, not only that, you got to pay for it yourself. So that's a natural deterrent to any kind of progress. So, and again, if I'm wrong on some details there, I'll be fixing that. But nonetheless, that is the system now. Public referendum and pay for it yourself, that's just not going to happen. So, yes?
Now, the pay for it yourself, what are you talking about that's being paid for?
The salaries. Right now, salaries are paid through what's called the comp board, which again, you can ask any constitutional officer. That is another antiquated system that needs to go away because it's not fair at all right now. It's your information if you ever want to get it. If you look at the salaries at the sheriff's office, there's so much disparity there.
Well, I'm a retired teacher, so don't talk. I know this very okay? I'm in Virginia versus the rest of the nation, and I'm in Rockingham County versus Northern Virginia, so I know this very.
Well, what it is, instead of getting their salaries, they let the sheriff's office budget right now is approximately $11 million, give or take, and then approximately $6 million of that is salaries. Okay, salaries, the way the current system, salaries are set up to be paid by the comp board, which is a state fund. And if you had a police department currently, right now, you would pay for that yourself. So that would be another $6 million we'd have to fork out in taxes. No one's going to increase their own taxes right now. I got that. But once we get the law fixed, back like it should be, the money would still come from the state in the same way.
And the reason I was asking that is because referendums, actually, it's not that hard to get it on the ballot, because I got the question of electing school boards on the ballot in the city of Harrison.
Oh.
And all I had to do was a lot of door-to-door knocking and get signatures, and then it was on the ballot.
To get it on or get it passed?
To get it on the ballot, and then the people voted that they wanted it.
Oh, great. That's
So it
awesome.
wasn't,
The experience
it
that I
wasn't,
had.
I mean, it was a lot of footwork, but it wasn't,
Right, but did that increase people's taxes? Okay, see, this currently, under the current law, would increase.
It'd be hard to get, it's hard to get on the
ballot.
ballot, but to get it
But then you
passed.
have to go with the people's decision, which is what,
Sure,
yeah.
sure, but the odds are stacked against us right now, the way the law is written. And again, a human being made that law, it's not infallible. And I think that a sheriff who, while his mind is still pure before the system corrupts him, going to and I've already talked to a couple delegates and whatnot, and they are, just like most people are naive of the system, because they've never worked in the sheriff's office. I mean, they can't know everything. And a lot of them are like, really? I didn't know it worked like that, you know? So I've talked to some of those guys, and a couple of them that are on the public safety committees, and say, look, you know, for the good of us all, we're kind of an embarrassment right now, nationwide. I mean, again, in the Army, you come across a lot of soldiers who are also cops, and they're like, what's up with y'all sheriff's offices? You know, we hear about all kinds of stuff going on. Again, I just named off 5 off the top of my head that are under indictment or have done some shady things.
Any system needs a
That's
good
what I was gonna
audit,
say.
audit process.
Police departments anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
you have a chief of police that's being paid, and you can read, you know.
Yeah,
about
and if
corruption.
he were to do that type of stuff, if our chief, if any chief had done that type of stuff, there's some oversight. The elected officials could be like, you know what, you are messed up. Right now, there's nobody to go to him and say, get out, you're done. You can, but you have to get a petition going. You have to get 10% of the voters, and unless you have a lot of free time, it's tough to do that. I mean, it was tough when the treasurer here, who if you talk to anyone who works at the treasurer's office, they'll also tell you that doesn't need to be an elected position, because you could get a better hired position out of that one. But nonetheless, that person didn't even step down. I mean, they had to circulate a petition to get her out, and that took a while. I mean, you know, she was facing felony embezzlement charges, yes.
If you were to get elected, Kevin, what do you see to be the biggest challenge facing?
Aside from all those.
Besides, yeah.
Yes, yes. Right now, the jail. The jail overcrowding is a big issue. And to give you background on the situation there, holds roughly 350 people at a given time. It's packed. I mean, they got inmates sleeping on the floors right now. Terrible decisions were made when that jail was built. I think it's only 16 years old, and we're already talking about having to build another one. 16 years. I mean, that jail should have lasted us 50 to 100 years. They put it in a terrible landlocked position. Poor leadership. Again, back then we didn't have the best of all leaders. We had the election process that gave us somebody who made a decision to put it in a terrible landlocked position. There's also the plan of, okay, when we do need to expand it, we'll buy the old HPD building, Harrison Police Department building. Remember that? Well, somebody didn't buy it like they were supposed to. So a private company bought it. It went for $300,000. For downtown real estate, that is chump change. To have saved us millions of dollars, we could have expanded out that way. They were going to close down Water Street and expand over the jail. We just didn't do it. And the story that I've been hearing is that when I was there, and I heard this from another official also, was that when they decided what was going to happen with that place, what would happen with the old HPD building before HPD moved over to Harrison, was they just didn't show up at the meeting. Our office just failed to show up at the meeting. So taxpayers get to suffer that pain, because we're going to have to eventually build another jail. Now, before we go throwing money at a problem again, there are a lot of things that we need to do ahead of time. Like I said, I mean, eventually we're going to have to build a jail, but eventually it might be 50 years from now. And this is actually on the website too. This is one of the questions that the TV3 asked. The first thing we need to do is bring back the RAID program. Is everybody familiar with that? It's a strictly monitored work release program. A lot of people get arrested, and they get arrested for not paying their fines or not paying child support. So let's look at the logic of this. You didn't pay your child support, so I'm gonna throw you in jail where you can't work. You know. So we had this program called RAID, and it was strictly monitored. They would be either in their home or at work. I mean, they could not stop at 7-Eleven to get a pack of bread. Home or work, you go anywhere else, you're in violation of this policy. You're coming back to jail. It was working great. The system that I tell you about, where you become more concerned about winning an election, I feel, helped run that road program into the ground. Because the person who was in charge of it at the time, I feel did not do a good job with it. And they took it down from 30-some people down to like 2. And it no longer became economically feasible to keep it. But again, we didn't have good leadership involved in it. And I'll tell you, one of the other candidates was the person who was running that at the time. Again, he's not here to defend himself, so I'm not going to say either one, but come to debate and we can talk about it, because I have brought it up at the Tea Party debate. I think working there, I think it started going downhill at the time under his control of it. He's got a reason why it went downhill. I don't agree with his reason, because having worked there, I knew what was going on. We bring that back, we automatically let pressure off that jail. It would 10% of the people in there easily could be on the raid program. And if you're a violent felon or anything like that, you're not going to be qualified for it. But if it's child support or fines or a minor misdemeanor, why not? And it pays for itself too, because the inmate has to pay a portion of his, because you have to use a company. There's a company that does the monitoring, they do phone monitoring. And they'll make random phone calls in the evening to the house, and you pick up the phone and you say hello, and they recognize your voice, and now they can tell that you're at home or you're at work. So it's not very labor intensive, but there is some fee for each inmate to be on it, and they pay for it themselves out of their proceeds from their work. So it works out well. The other thing is, when you become a cop, you go to training and you train, and they say, hey, I want you, your instructors say, every chance you get, you need to try to do some counseling to people out in the area. Talk to them and say, I came here for a domestic violence case. I don't see any reason to arrest anybody, but you guys were this close to someone going to jail, right? So they always say, try to take 5 minutes and counsel them, give them some guidance and whatnot. But the reality of it is, you're so busy because of shortages that as soon as you make a determination there's no arrest, you got to go to another call. Your radio's buzzing, you got to go to another call. But the irony here is that we get them in the jail for 24 hours a day, and we barely do any kind of counseling with them. There are some minor programs, but when you talk to those people that go work with the inmates to keep them out of trouble once they get out, they tell you that it's a pain in the tail, and there's just so much of a deterrent to try to even get into the jail to help them with that. I really want to bring together all the civic groups that I can, all the church-based groups that I can, and try to really focus on rehabilitation while we got their undivided attention. They got nothing else to do. And it's all pro bono. Most of those people want to do it for free, so it costs us nothing. And we can cut down the recidivism rate, which is like 80% in this country. If you get out of jail, you're 80% likely to go back to jail again. So, and then also, on the website, I won't, just for time purposes, there's 10 other things there, but I'll mention one more that I want to do. Before we go building another jail, I'm going to do all these things first. I don't see why we're not using inmate labor. It used to be done, and we've talked about the stagnant nature of the sheriff's office. Once the sheriff's there, it's like, hey, I'm coasted now. It used to be done a lot, and then after the first term and a half or so, you just never saw it again. And the excuse was, well, we don't have enough manpower to go out and guard the inmates while they're working on cleaning up a yard, or cleaning up a city park or something like that. That's true until you interject an innovative leader in there to say, let me get this straight. The city and the county are paying, or trying to come up with money so they can hire a firm to do this project. And they're going to come up with, and they can't. Most of the time they can't come up with the money, so it just gets pushed back, pushed back. How about we go to the city and the county government here, we say, hey, I can give you all the people you want. And all you got to do is pay for my deputy's hours. You don't even have to pay his health care, you don't have to pay for anything. While he's out guarding the inmates, will you pay for one deputy to guard 5 inmates, one per 5? I guarantee they would jump all over that, because they just got a cost savings of 80%. So why can't we offer that option? It just makes too much sense. It takes an innovative leader to actually say something like that, instead of just saying, oh well, bah humbug, we can't afford it, or we can't afford to hire another deputy for it. That's how it comes to jail issues. Yes.
1 year from now, October of 2012, the county sheriff is going to have to decide whether or not to renew the contract 287G. I'm just curious what you would do about that if you were elected.
I would renew it.
What is that?
Yeah, explain it.
It's a contract between local law enforcement and ICE, and it gives local law enforcement the ability to act as ICE on a street level for anyone who's they feel is undocumented.
And this question came up in another debate, and all three of us answered almost identically. I would renew it. In my experience, one of the problems that people talked about that we might have is that illegal immigrants might feel that, might get confused and think if I ever report anything to the police, I'm eligible to be deported. And that just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen, and I haven't seen it. I had never, in my years of experience, every time I ever dealt with an illegal immigrant, they a lot of times know the law better than the average legal citizens. It's meant for someone who has already committed a serious crime. So people who have committed minor crimes or haven't committed crimes at all aren't even eligible for it. It's only for people who committed a serious crime to be able to deport them later. And one of the biggest cases right now going on with it is Prince William County. They had a guy who had committed, I don't know, like 10 DUIs or something, and he was an illegal immigrant. Numerous times he would be arrested, and they had the 287G. After a while, they were like, okay, this guy's a habitual DUI. He's going to kill somebody. They submitted him to ICE and the Department of Homeland Security to eventually be deported. Unbeknownst to Prince William County, they released him again, and he drove drunk again, and he killed a nun. This just happened. So this is all in the paper. And so now Prince William County is actually suing the Department of Homeland Security, saying we want to know what you're doing. Once we submit someone to be deported because they've been committed a felony or just serious crimes, what are you doing with them? So I support Prince William's case in saying, why won't you tell us what you're doing with them? You're just re-releasing them. Again, I mean, we're all immigrants, so I mean, I definitely champion the cause of people wanting to better themselves by coming to a country. I just feel like if you're going to come here, just like anybody, you're going to commit serious crimes. We're not just going to really re-release you out there without saying, okay, at some point you're not welcome here anymore. So.
Just for clarification, this came from Sheriff Farley. They actually, if somebody gets pulled over for something like a traffic violation, just for running a red light, they actually have to still submit that paperwork to ICE. But I just wanted to know what your position was on it.
Well, if that's, I did not
and the
know
other
that's
candidates have
happening.
addressed that too. But I just wondered what your stance would be, and you answered the question. So.
Right, and well, here's the other thing. You can't, what's not right if this is being done, and my understanding is from talking to, because obviously I talked to a lot of jailers and a lot of deputies, my understanding is everybody who comes into the jail, and well, I mean, I don't know why you answered it like that, because I know when you pull somebody over and you run their license information, it's not linked to immigration status at all. It's completely different systems. Now, when you take them to jail, every single person, it doesn't matter if you're white, black, Hispanic, it doesn't matter. You get reviewed through the 287G program.
But I think what he told me was that if you don't have your license, and they recognize that you've been pulled over before, that they can take you to the jail for not having your license. That's what we've been told. They can take you for that.
And just coming in contact with a lot, I'm an interpreter, and coming in contact with a lot of that community, that is definitely true. And there's a recent case with some family friends that we had, and he didn't have a license but did not have a criminal record and was eventually deported. And there's more to that story, but that is it's not just if you're a criminal.
Sure.
And it's at the discretion of the officer who pulls you over. They're the ones that can choose if they want to take you in or not.
Well, that.
And just to go through the booking process, whether or not you have to stay in the jail or not, just going through the process, they have to submit that paperwork.
Okay, well, that's a revelation to me, and that's why one of the things I say is that we need to have more community involvement and representatives at meetings to discuss that very thing. Because if that's happening, that needs to be addressed. I mean, I don't see why. I've never seen that happen. And if that's actually been occurring, then that needs to be addressed. Because I think I'm almost positive, without having the internet right in front of me, I'm almost positive that's in a violation of a 287G. They have to have committed a crime prior to. But if we're doing it incorrectly, then it sounds like it's not proper.
But technically, driving without your license is a crime.
No, that's
But that's what the problem is with 287G. But that's a whole other issue. But you answered it good. Thanks.
like I said, I mean, I know you guys got a lot of business. I passed out some business cards earlier on. If I didn't get you one, I'll come by and give you one. But on the website, all these questions are, at least 5 major questions were answered by all the candidates. And then I have other, on my website, I have other information, so I don't want to take up any more of y'all's time. But did everybody get a business card? Okay, can I give you one?
What, you just only got one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll just give you. And the thing is, again, folks, I'm not, I'm not doing the bandwagon fundraising and all that stuff. I don't do the yard signs and all that because I just can't. I can't violate my oath. If that means I lose, whatever. But I'm gonna do it the right way. I can win though by you guys relaying the message and expressing what you learned here tonight about me. If you believe what I'm trying to do is sound and really having letting people know that I'm available to talk to anybody. I go door to door every night that I'm not doing a group talk like this. As soon as people get off work, I'm hitting neighborhoods. I've been doing that for a couple months now. Keeps me in good shape, a lot of walking.
If you can spare them, I'd like another half a dozen.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I can do all you want.
Well, Kevin, thank you so much for joining us tonight.